how to best ignite the fire of the will and to apply it to self-realization, self-actualization, while also going deeper in self-realization. Would you say this it awareness is ultimately free will itself, like pure, original, impersonal free will? So will, in England it's a name as well, will. So free, not will, but the fire of will, like determination, to me comes from the chakra. So from the chakras, from the solar plexus chakra. And so what you have to do to stimulate will is to stimulate the third chakra, the solar plexus. The way you can stimulate that is you can do Osho chakra breathing meditation. If you go to my website under references, you'll find that. Offer Osho chakra meditation breathing. And this helps stimulate the chakras. And also getting to know the psychology of that chakra. So the psychology of that chakra is, so the solar plexus is the feeling that you can choose, that you can do something. That you have free will, that you can arrive. That you're allowed to arrive, that you're entitled to arrive, that you can accomplish things. And in its negative, it's anger, frustration, helplessness, hopelessness, a feeling of stuck, that you can't do it, that nothing works out, that you have no choices, that you're trapped. So that's it in its negative. And also often when people have low will or low determination, it's because that chakra is out of balance. So it's stimulating that chakra. So the stages of like changing these chakras, you have to first of all see that it's not true. And that sounds a lot easier than it actually is. So if you get a feeling of hopelessness, that you can't do something, you more than likely take it to be real, but you're not even aware that you're believing it's real. It just becomes real to you. Just like if somebody put a tint of blue in your eyes, you would suddenly swear that everything in the room has turned blue. And everyone's going, no, you've got a tint on your eyes, there's colour, and you're, no, it's blue, it's blue. So when like the feeling of lack of will appears and like arises in the body, your mind takes it to be true. So your mind then like jumps on the bandwagon, so you're thinking, and who knows what comes first, the feeling or the thought. Maybe the thought stimulated the feeling, but then the mind really jumps on the bandwagon. And what that means is it's like really like, getting out its lasso. And it really goes for it, and it will start telling you how the situation is hopeless, and maybe reminding you of hopeless situations or what someone did to you that made you feel hopeless. And it depends on like how aware you are, because sometimes people are having those thoughts and arguing with someone in their head, but if you ask them how they are, they would say they were good, and they wouldn't really know they're having those thoughts. It sounds really weird when you've become really aware of your thoughts. So some people aren't even really aware that they're thinking, and they kind of feel that that's real, and they also aren't aware of it at the same time. So you first of all, the first stage of it is just becoming aware of the thoughts, and then also being able to place it to the feeling. Like, so that you're having thoughts of hopelessness or laziness, of lack of energy, and then placing it to your chakra and noticing that simultaneously you're having pain in the solar plexus. But you might not even notice you're having pain there because you're so used to it being tight or used to being in your head, you don't put much attention down there. But when you really put attention there, you might feel like you've got a rock in your solar plexus, or like it's all tense and tight. And the reason it's tense and tight is because of that thinking. So it's then like trying to realize that when you have those types of thoughts, that area in your body is in the negative and in pain, and that neither are true. The feeling, the pain, or the thoughts, none of them are true. They're what's currently arising in your body, but it doesn't mean the way life is going to be. So maybe you're having thoughts, that you can't make it, that at work you haven't got enough energy, or you can't do something, or there's all types of stories going on about it, or that you can't make liberation. Maybe that's your story. And you have to see through that. That's not the way it is. And that's really deep, actually, to do that. To get to that stage where you can connect the thoughts to the feelings, and you can knowingly see that it's not true. So you can be having an intense feeling of hopelessness or failure. And you, like at first, when you first start out, you might think it's exhaustion, but actually underneath exhaustion, you realize it's hopelessness and failure. So you have these feelings, but you can see that it's not true. So you can see what your mind is doing. You can see that it's projecting hopelessness and failure energy, but you totally see that that's not the way it is. Even if your boss is shouting at you or telling you off, you totally see that you're not hopeless and you're not a failure. It's simply a feeling arising, and it will pass. When I was a lot younger and I was with my teacher, I remember I would have feelings. This is so hard for me to remember, and I forget to teach these things because it's so distant in my memory. But so say if I had a dark feeling, I felt like that was the way my life always was. So if I was depressed, I'd be I'm always like this, I'm always depressed, I'm stuck in the depression. And it was in those moments, I couldn't remember life without it. I can only see darkness and a sad story. Or if I was in a story that people take advantage of me or something, that was all I could see. And I remember my teacher, Roger Castillo, said to me, I was in the flower bed doing gardening, and he said, it's just a thought that it's always like that. It's not true. And I know that sounds so obvious, but it really pierced something. It really hit me, and I was like, oh yeah. It's not always true. But it was before that, when these depressive or angry or upset thoughts came, I felt it's always like that, and that's the way it is. My whole life has been like that. And then he was like, it's not actually true. You feel like that now, but that's not how your whole life is. And that was me beginning to really step away from my feelings and really see that they're not a reality. They can't just engulf me and present themselves as true, as the way things are. We still got, yeah. So then it's seeing that they're not the truth. There's something that comes and goes, and then you can put energy, once you've really established it and you've really detached from them, like there is real clear seeing through it that it's not reality, then you can begin to put it into the positive. What is it that you want to feel? So on the surface, it might present itself as exhaustion, but underneath it's most probably something like failure or stuckness, fear that you can never do it, that you're in a cage. And then it's coming to that thought, and what is it that you actually want? Like you want to feel like a success. You want to feel like you can achieve things. You can do things. And then you can go back to traumatic memories, and you can remember things where somebody was telling you a failure, and you can bring that into memory, and then you can transform that memory, like reimagine it in a positive way. So say your parents used to often tell you you're a failure and like scold you about marks at school or something, and were really perfectionist and always on your case. You can remember one of those times, and then you can remember transforming it, like somebody coming in and saying, that's not an appropriate way to speak to your son. Like the appropriate way is to say your good qualities, and like really like telling your dad off or telling your mum off, and then your dad apologizing, and then your dad telling you all your good qualities. And this can be super healing to change the chakra. But this is all on the human level. This doesn't lead you to non-duality. This is on the human level. And this will never end in a way. Like what will happen is there will be less investment in it, like when you're really identified with that, and then the seeking gets more and the feelings get more and the chakras go more into the negative. But having feelings and traumas and all of that will never end. The freedom from it is detaching completely and seeing that who you are is life itself, is this looking. But it seems like there has to be a relaxation of all those dynamics. Like if you're constantly in hell, you can't hear this other possibility, that not that it's you that hears, but it's like this big weight of a person that's suffering is just so taking up so much space that this idea or this energy that's trying to like communicate that there is something bigger than you that's free just feels like nonsense. There's no connection to it because you're so involved in seeking. Because when your chakras are really closed and dense, it tends to be that you have lots of seeking energy, and that seeking energy pulls you into identification. The seeking energy is you're trying to avoid what's happening or what's going on. So even though this is on the human level, it seems to be what has to happen or goes hand in hand with waking up. But I just try to make it clear that the you that's doing this, that appearance of you that's like going into the feelings and doing all these things, isn't actually a doer and doesn't actually inherently exist as a separate person. It's something that's being experienced and coming and going in who you are. And it's not about fixing all your chakras. That would just become a new big seeking game. But making them more balanced is really wise. And it's socially kind that everyone like tidies up their chakras. And maybe it's like you have to an extent go through this process on the human level before awakening happens, because like life can manifest in multiple possibilities, and anything really can happen. So whatever I say isn't fixed. But like if I just think about people that I meet that are really unconscious, so really unconscious, where they really don't know what they think and feel, which to me is a lot of people, even people in spirituality, they really don't know what they think or feel because they have a story of who they want to be. So they want to be a kind person. So when they're sitting there seething in anger, they're telling themselves how much they love everybody, and they can't connect to their body. They can't feel in their body that their body is like, Rah! They have this story, oh yes, aren't they wonderful? Da, da, da. And so it does seem like there has to be this, on the human level, this getting real, like coming back to being like more of a simple human on the human level, and not like living such a big daydream of self, or strong daydream. So it's almost like the sense of self has to lighten up, become thinner in order for the shift to happen. More than likely that is the way it happens. I mean, that's what all the sutras in Buddhism and in Hinduism, the Vedas, all imply that you have to do preparation work. But modern non-duality tends to dismiss that, which is true to an extent. Like, I can really hear modern non-duality, which is what I teach as well, is that it's not about, you know, giving your life to an ashram for the rest of your life, or having perfect chakras, or being a perfect person. It really isn't. But there does need to be, to an extent, settling down. Dune. Would you say this it awareness is ultimately free will itself, like pure original impersonal free will? You can name it how you like, but consciousness doesn't have free will. It's not sitting there and saying, oh, I'm going to make Gilad do this today or that today. And you're never going to get to the point where you can find that free will, which we describe as somebody in there like, oh, I'm going to do this. It's just creating spontaneously. So, I mean, if you want to name that as free will, like it's doing whatever it wants, but it's a bit personified, like you're trying to personify divinity, whereas it's really mystery and unnameable, and it's a happening. And free will is maybe a way too tiny word to put on it. Too petite. Thank you for your question, Gilad.